Recently, there has been a lot of discussion within the NBA, just discourse, I guess, about should the NBA get rid of conferences. Now, there has been I'm not going to say it's been taking over the social media aspect of the NBA, but it has definitely been brought up one or two times in order to kind of balance things out between conferences and divisions, because as it stands, people believe that the Western Conference is way stronger than the Eastern Conference. Now, I disagree with this personally. I don't think there's a major discrepancy, but I do think that it is a fun idea if we got rid of conferences. Now, I'm going to explain why, and we're going to get into that. But if you enjoyed the video, like and sub. If you don't, then don't. That's pretty simple. But yeah, let's get right into it. So as it stands right now, the top 10 teams in basketball in each conference both have losing records. And because of the play-in, it really starts to make people question, is the play-in worth it? When we look at the Western Conference, we see that the 8th seed is 47-34, the Memphis Grizzlies, while the 9th seed is 39-42. This is an instance where the play-in doesn't really make sense because the difference between the 8th and the 9th seed is so much different that if the 9 seed makes it, do they really deserve it? I'm not here to throw around speculation on if they do or don't. I'm just asking the question, do the Kings really deserve the playoffs over the Grizzlies, who have won 8 more games of them as of right now? In my opinion, no. This is an instance where the top 8 seeds should be playoff teams. There is a clear cutoff in playoff teams right now from 8 to 1 in the West. But if we take a look at the East, it's a lot different. The 8 seed has 39 wins and the 9 seed has 38 wins. There is a very, very close race in the East. And I feel like people don't understand that maybe the Western Conference seems better because it's top heavy, while the East is quote unquote more close within the top 10. The 10th seed in the East has 37 wins. The 10th seed in the West has 39. So are things closer overall in the East? Yes. Are the teams in the West probably better than the East? Yes. Do we eliminate conferences? No, that's never the answer. We never eliminate conferences. Eliminating conferences would make things so much more complicated. If you need 16 teams to compete in an NBA playoff format, and you just take the top 16 teams from who they are this year, guess what you would get? You would get the top 16 teams in the NBA. You just would. Eliminating conferences doesn't change a thing. You literally get the top 8 teams in both conferences in the NBA. It makes no sense to get rid of conferences completely. Now, I will say, does there maybe need to be some realigning? Could some realignment work within expansion? I expect the next 2 expansion teams to be Vegas and Seattle. 100%. I don't see them going anywhere else. The only other place I could maybe see is St. Louis. But other than that, Vegas and Seattle should be the next 2. So the question is, who do you kick over to the East, or do you change up the format? In my opinion, it makes a ton of sense to kick the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies over to the East. Timberwolves, Grizzlies, and Pelicans arguably, but I think Timberwolves make the most sense just to kick over to the East really, really easily. You can put Seattle in their spot in their division. It makes the most sense, okay? And by adding the firepower of the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies, the 7 and 8 seed this year, who have star power on their teams, all of a sudden, the conferences seem a little bit more aligned. I will say, however, though, divisions I could get behind getting rid of. We don't really care about divisions. No one really cares about divisions. Divisions would mean more if there was more of a rivalry within the NBA. But there are like 3 true rivalries within the NBA right now, and they're very hard to find. You really have to look for them. I mean, I would argue that Pistons Rockets is one, just because of Cade and Jalen Green. I would say Lakers Mavericks, just because of Luka and that trade. I feel like that makes sense to count as a rivalry, which I don't think is ridiculous. And then after that, I really struggle to find any other kind of rivalry. Maybe the Hawks and the Knicks because of Trae Young and MSG and that whole debacle. But other than that, what else are we really considering a rivalry? There's no Battle of LA for the Lakers and Clippers. They just try to force that agenda. Is Warriors Lakers one? Not really. Maybe Thunder and Timberwolves. I get behind that. Maybe there's 4. I could throw Thunder Timberwolves in there. But other than that, what do you have? You don't have anything. There isn't really rivalries. So you don't need divisions. The reason why divisions work so well in football is because within football, let's just use the Steelers-Ravens rivalry as an example. They hate each other. They hate each other. The Packers and the Bears. They hate each other. And I know there's so much more, like the Seahawks and the 49ers, the Raiders and the Chargers, the Broncos and the Chiefs. Everybody within divisions has an actual hate for each other, but within the NBA, there's no hate. There's no hate. There's no true rivalry. We don't see rivalries anymore in the NBA, which is honestly killing the sport, but that's a topic for another video, if we're being so honest. That is a topic for another video. So getting rid of divisions makes sense. Just making it one big conference. If you add in the 2 teams, you take away 2 teams, you would have 17, you'd have what, 16 teams? And you have what would be then 16 teams on each side. I think that's where I was at in the video. I had to pause it, my recording. If you have then the 16 teams on each side, if we consider expansion with Seattle and Vegas, and then you move the Timberwolves to the East, then all of a sudden you're looking at a better chance to make rivalries just based on conference. Conferences should stay. The East and the West, it helps with formatting. It helps with a lot of things. Divisions make no sense though. Divisions make 0 sense. If there was rivalries, maybe they would, but they just don't. Now, I will say this, however. I do believe that eventually we will see more rivalries, but the problem is that everyone's just so nice, which isn't a problem. There's just no one who hates each other in the NBA, which is, of course, not a problem. You know, everybody wants to just play the sport and enjoy their time. So with all of that, all the information being considered, everything that I've just said, my overall take is very, very simple. You don't get rid of conferences in the NBA. It's a bonehead, brain dead decision. You just don't do. You can get rid of divisions. You can push, rivalries all you want, but getting rid of conferences would just overcomplicate things when the top 16 teams in the NBA right now are currently the top 8 teams in each conference. You can argue that the Kings are better than the Hawks, but if you don't, then it is the top 16 is the top 8 and the top 8. Very much oversimplifying things if you decide to get rid of conferences. Conferences hold this kind of prestige, I would say, within the NBA where you don't have to contend as much with the East as long as you can keep up with your conference if you're in the West. Now, let me share an idea I just thought of. Imagine you have an overall record and then you have a conference record. Let's say that the Thunder, they're 67-14 overall. But what if they're 8-7 against the East? You know what I mean? They're not. But let's say they're 24-11 against the East. And the Rockets are, let's just in fantasy world, they're 25-11. Then the Rockets, no, I'm saying this wrong. Not against the East, against the West. Let's say the Thunder are 30-14 against the West and the Rockets are 31-14 against the West as well. The Rockets then get the 1 seed because they're the best team against the Western Conference competition. Does that make sense? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? Think about it like NFL divisions, which I know I said get rid of divisions. Think about it like NFL divisions, where if you are a 6-11 team, but you're 6-0 in your division, you win your division and you go to the playoffs. If the Timberwolves, for example, are 48-33, but they're 20-30 against the West, why do they deserve to go to the playoffs over a team like the Mavericks, who might be 25-27? Why not have the Mavericks then make it over the Timberwolves because they are better against Western Conference competition? I don't know. That's just yappage right there. That is completely just random thoughts. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Like and stuff for more content. And yeah, let's go.